When my wife and I built this N-scale 4 by 8 foot model railroad layout 42 years ago, I had no idea how much N-scale technology would improve and how much I would still enjoy playing with the layout, like I said, 42 years later. This is Burr Stewart. Welcome to another operations video in my series. This time for the N-scalers among you. I know you've been frustrated that all I seem to produce is HO scale trains, but today we're going to spend some time on the N-scale part of my model railroading career. Let's start with an overview of this 4 by 8 foot layout. It was based on a track plan from John Armstrong's Track Planning for Realistic Operations book, which was published by Colbatch Publishing many years ago. And I modified it. It was originally designed for 3 by 6 foot, and I thought if I made it a little bigger, it would have more operational possibilities. Then during the COVID pandemic, I add a little section on the end because I wanted to add a steel mill. And you can see on the right, I've got a little cardboard mock-up for the steel mill. But more on that later. Let's get to train running. For this video, I just plan to show you a couple of trains that I've been running lately with some of the modern N-scale equipment that's available with DCC sound decoders, and they sound pretty good, as you can hear. This modern BNSF C44-9W locomotive was made by ScaleTrains in their rivet counter series, and the oil tank cars were recent releases from Rapido. The train is going over a wood trestle. It was built using toothpicks by my son when he was just the right age to find that intriguing. The railgun in the foreground has some rebar loads in it, which will eventually be coming out of a model of the steel mill, which, as you saw right now, is just a piece of cardboard. It's fun hearing that train spool down, and we'll bring the switcher out. There it comes. I'm not normally a fan of Broadway Limited products because the decoders are hard to work with, but in the case of these switchers that they recently produced in N-scale, they're really impressive pieces of technology considering how small they are. Just listen to the sound. I don't know why that locomotive stopped. I think it just got to a dirty spot in the track. As you know, I'm fond of saying, this is reality model railroading. And if you think that was bad, just wait. It's just a few weeks after the summer solstice here in early July. And so the morning sun just comes streaming in the window, and it's all I can do not to photograph the layout in these conditions. So here's just one shot of the morning sun hitting the yard. You can really see the detail in the side of the switch engine under these lighting conditions. After 42 years, I still haven't ballasted this yard, but it's beautiful in the morning sun. You can see there's another one of those BLI switchers with the NP paint on it that we'll play with some other day. Not to mention JMRI ops. I have all these cars in the yard and in the trains there because the computer spreadsheet is telling me to run those cars and those trains. But that's a subject for a whole nother video. Right now we're just rail fanning. Speaking of which, now we have some GMDs that I'm hypothesizing could have operated, oh, they sound good, in Victoria, which is a whole nother subject. But as you can see, they're 4-axle diesels, and they seem to have a little more trouble negotiating these old Atlas turnouts. But when we say old, these Atlas turnouts are left over from a small layout that I had in graduate school back in 1975. So they don't owe anybody anything. We'll play with these GMDs more later. Now we're going to get on to the more modern locomotive. What you hear starting up there is a ScaleTrains C44-9W painted in the original Santa Fe paint before the merger, I think. I have my sound turned down pretty low on these DCC decoders. This is an ESU decoder. I'm just running it out so we can enjoy watching it move through these old Atlas switches. And take advantage of the early morning sunshine. For some reason, the sound of the motive power turned off. I had to turn it back on again. Fats Weller would call this numb fumbling. One press of F8 and we're back in business. Now I'm trying to get it stopped before it runs into the nail at the end of the track. Bang! I guess you could say it hit the nail on the head. Huh. That startup was a little abrupt for my taste, but to be fair, I haven't spent a lot of time reprogramming these locomotives in N-scale so that they operate just the way I want yet. Been too busy working on the HO scale layout, which you probably know if you've been watching videos on my channel. Anyway, the bottom line is this is a nice running engine. Well, for our last act, I thought we really should watch a longer train in operation. Here I have a couple of BN U-boats that are pulling a long train that can fit into my staging yard. And it's a lot of fun to watch a long train too, not just switch moves. I've got the two views set up for you, slightly different angles, but there's a slight difference in the two consists, so just keep an eye and see if you can figure out what car is missing from one of the shots. Or you could just enjoy watching the train like I am. This is kind of a typical Pacific Northwest consist with lumber products and chemicals, wood ship hoppers, that type of thing. As you can see, I haven't really settled on the era for the N-scale railroad. It's all over the place. Now, despite the poor lighting, I'm going to zoom in so that you can watch the train going around a loop on the layout. It'll come around underneath the bridge in a minute. You probably recognize that silver bridge as a Cato product. I probably bought it in 1979 or something. And it seems to be still holding up the trains just fine. There is the front end. Nice. Uh-oh, I had the switch aligned wrong, so I had to stop. Ooh, what a mess. Well, that's reality model railroading for you. So for now, this is Burr Stewart wishing you continuing much fun with trains. I don't know if those seagulls are laughing or crying.